All right, it has been a long day. My name is Solomon Newete, and I work for the Agriculture Research Council as a senior researcher, and I'm a visiting associate professor at Witwatersrand University in Johannesburg, South Africa. And I'll be presenting on, my title is Yield Prediction of Maize Crop Grown Under Irrigated and Rain-Fed Condition Using some Remote Sensing Phenological Products. Yeah, right. Okay, so South Africa, and particularly a province known by Free State, is known as a maize basket of the continent. But generally, we all know that the world depends on wheat, rice, and maize or corn for food. They are considered as a stable food. And particularly maize supports about more than 200 people in developing country. And in Southern Africa, 60% of the cropping area in southern parts of the continent is planted with corn or maize, and half of that comes from South Africa, making it a very prominent contributor to the maize market, either in the Southern Africa or in the continent and the world by large. So maize in South Africa comes from three main provinces. I just want to use, so Free State is one of the provinces which is known as the maize basket of South Africa, and it 44.3% of maize is produced in this province. The country, so 44.3% of the 15.8 million tons that was produced last year in the growing season of 2020 to 2021 comes from one province. And then the other two provinces are Mpumalanga, which produces 22.4%. And then the third one is Northwest province, which produces 17%. So collectively, between the three provinces, about 83.7% of the maize is produced in these three provinces. Now, the question is, there's global warming that have a dire impact on particularly agricultural activities through unpredictability, climate unpredictability, like rainfall, temperature, and all those things brings agricultural production or makes it a huge issue. And for instance, it's the projected global warming will likely reach 1.8, but when it comes to South Africa, at least between 1960 to 2003, the temperature has been increasing by 0.13 degrees centigrade every 10 years. And that we very much know that at least every 1 degree centigrade increase in global mean temperature would mean a decrease of 7.4% in maize production. So it's very important when it comes to food security that yield is predicted in advance before it's harvested to facilitate decision making of whether a country has to import or how much it will export at the end of the season. So that should be determined before the crop itself is harvested. But how do we do that? We'll just in a moment we'll be seeing or looking at those such models. Just to give you an overview of what's grown in South Africa, you've got here the main varieties are white and yellow. So white is produced mainly for food, and yellow is produced for either as a fodder or cattle feed, as well as for biofuel. And the total of all types of maize, whether the white or yellow varieties across the country in all the provinces, was about it's close to 1.3 million hectares. That's the total acreage. That's how much maize occupies in the country in 2021. But in 2022, which is this season, this past season, it slightly shrinked, but it's just above 1.2 million hectare. But it's believed that the input of fertilizers and intensive agriculture is improving the yield generally. So 15.8 million ton per hectare was produced in 2021 in South Africa, and largely it is exported to neighboring countries in Southern Africa. All right, so the crop calendar in the country, and this is a messy figure, but I'm just interested in corn, and it is grown in this between October and December. That's the planting date. So the green indicates the planting date, and the orange or indicates the harvesting period. So it's often between October and December, corn is planted in South Africa. But the bottom line is this planting dates keep shifting. Normally it used to be, 10, 15 years ago, it used to be sometime early October to mid of October. Now, most of these farmers are, do plant towards mid of November and beginning of December. So because of this shift in the climate and the weather, since farmers plant with the beginning of the first rain in the season, it is very important that, there must be some sort of a mechanism to control or to map and monitor the acreage of how much is planted and what is the phenology of each crop and how much will it be produced by the end of the season. All right, so the aim and the objective of this study is really to investigate the potential of remote sensing phenological data products to forecast maize yield. And some of the main objectives are to analyze the yield data obtained from about 5,766 yield samples in the 3 provinces for the 2 seasons, 2018, 2019, and then 2019, 2020 growing season of maize. So test correlation between the obtained yield. So it's correlating the observed yield against the predicted yield. The predicted yield will be obtained from some modest data product such as the fraction photosynthetic active radiation and leaf area index, as well as NDVI, and then modeling the yield data versus highly correlated modest product, which are the top 3. So the actual yield data is correlated against the 3, and see if the 3 models from modest can help predict the yield before the harvest. All right, so this is a map of South Africa, and basically I'm trying to show here the 3 provinces. This is one here, Northwest Province, the biggest province, the maize basket of the country. This is the Free State Province, and then we have Mpumalanga, the 3rd one here. So all these points are just to show the distribution of the mean yield per hectare per area sampled from each of the province. And there's a table here: Free State Province, yellow, Y stands for yellow, white, W stands for white maize for the 3 provinces, and the total of points are down here. That's the yield, the actual yield collected. All right, so the yield was obtained from Agricultural Research Council. That's a sister grain institute, they call it. So it's a sister institute for the company that I work for. And these are the breakdown. 2,579 from a summer season of 2018-2019, and 3,187 data points for the year 2019-2020. And the data include yield, the provinces, dryland or irrigated maize yield, or the 2 varieties, white and yellow maize. Yield data points without any coordinates and points outside the study area were all excluded as a preliminary analysis. And eventually, to compare between the provinces, between the different varieties, the white and yellow maize, or between the different agronomic practice, the dry and irrigated cultivation system, A post-hoc test was run. Turkey, honestly, significant difference. Post-hoc test was run to compare between the provinces and the maize variety. The remote sensing products, the phenological products that I just spoke a moment ago, is Modis, this product here, data set that collects the maximum surface reflectance every 8 days, and that is used to estimate the NDVI in every 8 days per pixel. And then the other two products, Modis products, are the combined fraction of photosynthetically active radiation, FPAR, and then the leaf area index product, which is this product here, at a resolution of 500 meter per pixel size. So the last two Modis products are accumulated every 4 days, but the surface reflectance is accumulated every 8 days. So the combination of the three Modis phenological products were used to estimate or predict the maize yield. And then eventually the Poisson's test was used to measure the relationship between this three phenological Modis products against the observed yield. So the maximum NDVI, the maximum leaf area index, and FPAR in the mid-November to mid-December was selected to predict yield using the random forests classification model. Right. So just to give you an overview, how does it look? All those 5,716 points that were collected for the maize yield from the three provinces, very quickly. So this is the yield in tons, and here we got the province, Free State, Mpumalanga, Northwest. And at the bottom here, we've got D for dry land, which is the rain-fed white maize, and then the I, irrigated white maize, and so on and so forth. So dry land, yellow maize, and irrigated yellow maize. Literally, I'm trying to just show you what is the highest here, which is the irrigated white maize. It gives you up to 13.16 or just about 13 tons per hectare, and that is irrigated white maize. But the dry white maize, the average in Free State is about 6 or 6 point few points above 6. The same thing applies for Mpumalanga, slightly lower in Northwest. So this is the actual, just for visualization purpose that I'm bringing this, all those 5,000 points, if you have to put them in a graph, the average yield per ton per province is somewhere between 6 to 13, whether it's an irrigated or a dry land. And when you put all the three provinces together as an average of maize yield for dry and irrigated, as well as for yellow and white. So the white maize, the average yield in South Africa is about 6 tons per hectare. And the yellow is about that. It's not significant. We'll see that in the next table. But the irrigated is slightly high because of the availability of water. But the white maize seem to do better than the yellow maize. On the right here, the dry white maize and dry yellow maize and so on and so forth. This is just to show the distribution of the data, which is fairly distributed very well. The middle one here, you find slightly between 5 to 8. That's where most of the data are distributed. So it's between 5 to 8 ton per hectare. All right, this is slightly a complicated table, but it's a breakdown of all those points. So the I is for irrigated, and this is for dry land for all the provinces put together. So if it's irrigated, it gives you about 11.79 ton per hectare. But if it's a dry land, and by dry land I mean the rain-fed cultivation, is about 6. That's an average 6 for the country. I mean for the three provinces, 6.15 tons per hectare. And we were trying to look the NDVI, the leaf area index, and the FPR, either for the irrigated or for the dry land. And there's a significant difference between the irrigated and dry land. So those NDVI and leaf area index will will tell you something or some point that could help predict the yield. And then the yellow and the white. And then we break down the data onto provinces, regardless of their variety and agronomic system. So if you exclude the agronomic cultivation system, which is irrigated and dryland, or the varieties, generally, Mpumalanga seems to have a higher tonnage per hectare than Free State, although Free State, by number, it produces the biggest maize yield in the country. So this is a post hoc run between a province, the varieties, whether irrigated or dryland. So this is just a breakdown of all the information and the interaction between the three provinces in terms of yield. All right, so I've said this, and just on this one here, you've got Free State, white maize, irrigated, it's 13.16 ton per hectare, followed by Mpumalanga for white maize, irrigated, 13, and the yellow maize, the highest in that province is 11. And if you come to dryland, which is here, you can see between, for white one, between 6, that's yellow, between 6 and 8. So between 6 and 8, that's the average yield, per hectare. All right. So what we're trying to do is, so we've got those 5,000 points that were collected from 3 provinces. And now we want to use the satellite and see if we can model using remote sensing based on the different phenological models and see if we can predict the yield and compare that with the observed yield. Now, so around here, which is somewhere in October, there's a slight increase, but that could be, remnant plants from the previous season or weeds. And the moment farm plowing starts, so the NDVI here goes down here slightly, because it's some sort of a depression around 24 October. And why? Because of the furrow. So it's plowed, so there is no green, there is no NDVI, so that could be indicated as the growing, or as well the planting date. So literally, even if you don't know the planting date, so you can actually estimate the planting date using the remote sensing. And then as the plants grow, it starts shooting all the way between January and February. So this is the highest peak for NDVI for all the different varieties and agronomic practice, like dryland and irrigated and yellow and white and so on. So this is just basically to show you when did the planting started and when does the peak of NDVI shows here, around January and on March. Okay, so next one, leaf area index, is the same thing. So it exactly reflects around the same time here. 24 October, there's a depression, which shows that there isn't any vegetation here or any plants. And then as it starts, the seedling as it starts to grow, then the leaf area indices start to pick up again just after January. The same here for FBAR, and the reason I'm repeating the 3 are because they are the 3 phenological products of MODES that we want to use to estimate the yield before harvest. So this also follows the same pattern, and then this is the coefficient, the correlation coefficient. That's yield against the 3 different models now. This is where we want to see how good this 3 NDVI, leaf area index, and FBAR could be correlated with the actual yield. As you can see here, the peak is after November, between November and December here. This one here. So at this point, the correlation gives you the maximum point that you have is for leaf area index. You got 0.644. The NDVI, you've got 0.77, and the FBR, you've got 0.58. Now we took, these are the maximum points, and so we took this maximum point and correlated them with the actual yield to get this one. In other words, to improve the correlation between the predicted and the observed one. So the NDVI was improved to 0.84, that's the R value, the leaf area index 0.78, and the FPR 0.67. So with 0.84 NDVI giving you, this is literally a good correlation between the observed and the predicted yield. So we ran this based on that. So we took NDVI and we used NDVI as a predictor, and we ran it into a random forest algorithm and classify based on that. So from the 5,700 yield data that we have, we split them as 70-30. This is a training data. 70% of the data was used to train the model, and then the other 30% was used to compare with, based on the trained model here, to estimate on the remaining 30% and see if it matches or not. Now, as you can see, even the distribution is, in the 30% of the 5,000 point that was collected, and the 70%, more or less, they give you the same. They're fairly distributed, This is to see, these are the predictor, because we were talking about the different provinces and then the different varieties, and then the irrigated, the dry and irrigated, then the leaf area index, the NDVI. Which of these 6 predictor or variables are important for the classification of the entire 5,000 yield data that was collected? So in this one, the province seems to be contributing higher, because you see the increasing mean square error is highest for the province. So the province helps to reduce the difference between the observed and the actual. So it's one of the important predictor or parameter. And when it comes to node purity, this is which of this 6 again is important in classifying the different trees in the forest on that model. Which one of this is the most important as a variable to include? And as you can see, NDVI has the highest. So NDVI plays a great role in deciding in making the right decision in the model, in how much trees that has to be generated. And this one is the error. As you can see here, around 300, the error starts, the impurity of the node starts to be almost consistent or constant. And therefore, the model will realize that at least 300 trees has to be created within the forest. The number of trees has to be created within that. And finally, therefore, so those predicted yield from the 3 models against the observed yield, as you can see, it gives a very, very strong correlation with a mean absolute percentage error of just less than 5 in both cases, including the root mean square error. So as long as the difference is, or the error or the accuracy level, the error level is below 5%, this should be fairly or highly good strong correlation and good accuracy for the prediction. In conclusion, so the 2 products of MODIS is the moderately, so this is one of the satellite with moderate resolution. And these are the 2 products. One is for surface reflectance, and the other one is for the leaf area index and the FPAR, and they are more related to temperature. So the data products were used to predict maize yield in Free State, in Mpumalanga and Northwest provinces. So the maximum of NDVI, leaf area index, and FPR during the mid-November and mid-December of the growing season were found to from highly to moderately correlate with the yield, producing a correlation of 0.84, 0.78, and 0.67 respectively. NDVI giving you the highest correlation. And therefore, so the random forest model was able to explain 98% of the data variation and predicted the yield with a mean absolute percentage error of 3.8.4 for 2019-2020 and 4.53% for 2018-2019 growing seasons. Therefore, finally, the recommendation is MODIS has quite a coarse spectral resolution from 250 to 500. It would be very nice to see if other high resolution satellite data could be used, particularly if there is a heterogenic fields with more than one crop or smaller farms. That high resolution would help much better. So in future, this could be tried. These are some of students. One is a PhD candidate, and the other one is an MSc candidate involved in this project. And this is a colleague, a senior technician in our department. So this project was funded by the National Research Foundation of South Africa under the project grant number 118679. And thank you very much.